everyone, today we're going to do a watercolour mountain painting, so follow along and we'll get started. I'm just going to start off with adding my background layer of the mountains. I'm using lots and lots of water to water down my colours in this first layer. You can be quite free in your brush strokes when you're using watercolour. You don't want to be too controlled because you lose that flowing effect of the paints all blending together. Half the fun of using watercolour is the randomly occurring blending that does happen with the water and the pigment of the paint. So try not to be too controlled with your paints when you're using watercolour. They will always turn out quite different and make every painting really individual. I'm going to go in with a deeper version of that blue that I initially used, and the way to do this is to just add less water to your paint to make the paints more pigmented and a stronger colour. And I'm just going to highlight the areas that I want to draw out some more shadow tones and deeper colours. I'm going to be blending in some green for this section. I'm doing this while the paint is still wet, just so I can get the blending of the greens into the blue and the purple that I've already added down. I'm also adding varying amounts of water, so less water where I'd like the green to be darker to get more pigment from the paint, and more water where I want some lighter areas and to have the colours bleed into each other. Way to have colours bleed into each other and blend together nicely is to use similar colours. So you'll see here I'm adding yellow, which is an aspect of if you are going to mix green, so it's natural that they would blend into each other quite easily. Now I'm adding a brown tone to signify some chunks of some trees in that background there, and I'm doing this all the way along. The water on my paper is still quite wet, so I will get some bleeding, but you can go in with a dry brush if you'd like to stop some of the colour running as well. As your paper dries, it will be easier to add sharper lines to signify shapes into your painting as well, but this just does depend on how long you want to wait for your painting to dry and how sharp you want those shapes to be. Just going in again as my paper is gradually drying with a darker toned blue just to signify some more mountain shapes in the background. Now that my initial mountains are dry, I'd like to actually go over the top to add some mountains that seem like they're actually behind those ones as well. I'm using a really watered down purple to do this. Once you've placed some paints down on your paper, you can actually just go in with just water and encourage the bleeding of the colours and blending into one another. As I mentioned before, as your paper is drying, it's much easier to have sharper shapes on your page as well. So now that my paper is a little bit drier, I'm going to go in and add some more details in these trees that I'd like closer in the foreground. Also going in with some deeper tones for the ground layer as well to really separate the background from the foreground. Keep coming back to your shapes as your paper's drying because you will get a much different effect. I kind of do want to have the trees blended in a little bit, but there are some aspects I'd like to be a bit sharper. sharp brush to make those really sharp shapes that you'd like to add for trees, rocks, any other details you'd like to add in your painting. Just finishing off these last few details now with a purple toned brown. This actually makes the trees look like they're a bit further away in the picture, and also the fact that they're smaller does add to that illusion of distance. Now just adding some specks of red. I'd really like this painting to look really colourful, so red's not been a colour that I've used much in the painting, so I'm just going to add some flowers and some little autumn leaves on the trees and some other things on the ground, just to add some more colour and a little bit more texture to the foreground. Again, feel free to go over any sections just with some more water, just to blend some of those colours in together. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed using watercolour paints today. Thanks for watching.